People, DG, I'm back again. Now, obviously, we lost 2-1 against Chelsea. Very much a smash and grab. Very much, I mean, that's one of them games that shows you what football's about. The ecstasy, the agony, the acceptance of defeat, and the mixed emotions and the constant merry-go-round of emotions from the first minute to the 90th, or for Chelsea fans from the 12th minute to the 90th, or for Arsenal fans the same minutes but for a different reason. Now, Arsenal obviously lost this game. For me, in short, we lost this game in the beginning of the second half because we didn't go out there with the same intensity, and I believe we crept into old habits and whatnot. But we really lost this game for our inability to manage games, and specifically inability to manage the final 10 minutes in the game. We've got a lot of young players. They're going to have to learn from this experience. We've got a lot of players who are experienced and should learn from this. We had a decent first half and we had a better all-round performance than many Arsenal fans expected. But the facts are, we're in our worst run at home since 1959. We're 11th, 12th in the table, bottom half of the table. We've got Manchester United next. The world doesn't care that we've got a new manager and we showed some positives because the result is still the same in terms of a defeat. Before I go on, I will say one thing that's become evident. The way Arteta wants to play, you don't need to be a brute or anything, but we probably need 2 or 3 more athletic players. And collectively as a team, with the players, obviously professional footballers, they got stamina in that. But for me, it looked like we was tired from pressing and that same aggression we showed in the first half. It looked like it took a lot out of the boys in the second half, on top of just creeping into old habits and silly mistakes. So we're going to have to obviously be able to learn to, be able to better yet keep that intensity from the first minute to the start. Also with that is going to come managing games, because like you saw for the second goal we'll speak about, naiveties. To be at 1-1, for them to concede that sort of goal, that the only word that comes to mind is naive. So we're going to have to learn when to pour forward, when to manage games out and whatnot. And that's only going to come with time and with experience and really learning from mistakes. Like tomorrow, probably be a recovery session for the boys. They won't do any training, or the players that play today won't do any significant training, maybe a light session. But what I'm hoping is that they're in that video analysis room, looking at the positives and looking at the negatives. Now, the positives, I can't even see which side we're at. Obviously, if this is our front line, I liked how we pressed. You obviously had Nelson, who played well, forever testing Tomori down this side initially when they was using 3 at the back with Emerson initially. Nelson was getting in there. Laka was doing his thing. Aubameyang, of course, he was tracking back, but he was playing on the shoulders as well. And as a team, I think we did quite well to press their back 5. Sorry for holding it, people. I think we did quite well because obviously you had that. You had Nelson joining. You had Laka. You had what's his face, Mesut Ozil, as they were here. You obviously, even Torreira at times he's joining. It became like a 4 or a 5. Or at times, what I liked when pressing is it became something like that, and they couldn't get out. Clearly, Chelsea did not. They got their tactics wrong, or Lampard got his tactics wrong, because they couldn't get out of there. We was winning every ball, was first to every tackle and whatnot. That clearly that same 3 at the back business that they tried to come with against Spurs wasn't working initially, people. We was all on top of them. Tammy was working the channels alone. Mount was pulling out to the left or coming inside and had no joy. Willian, for me, was way too narrow from a Chelsea perspective in that first half. Like, for me, you want him out there testing young Saka, but it played into our hands. You obviously had Maitland-Niles going forward. You had Saka doing his thing when it presented itself. And like I said, I was impressed with how we pressed as a 4 when Ozil joined Lacazette, Pepe and Aubameyang impressing. I was very impressed. What I was impressed with as well is that we was relatively compact defensively as well, people. If you give me a sec. We was relatively compact defensively. I was really impressed with what we was doing. I'm missing some players, people. What's going on? Here we go. At times it even looked like a 4-4-2 out of possession, and we was I liked how we was quite narrow as a team when we was defending Chelsea's attacks and whatnot. We sat in. Nelson was quite narrow. Clearly that was something he was told, and we got men behind the ball. Whether Aubameyang was going to do that and Ozil or Lacazette swapped, you saw a willingness to do these sort of things, and we soaked up the pressure well. Was impressed with how we played out from the back. It was all there in the first half. Where it kind of went wrong for us is when I think Jorginho changed the game in the Chelsea perspective, because it allowed, they couldn't get out. Chelsea's back 3 could not get out. We was pressing them. They couldn't get out. they've got Kovacic, but Kovacic isn't really in the game of such. Kante's over there. Their front three are always going to be irrelevant within the context of me saying that, people. Kante was further up the field and his playing isn't ball playing. So if we're pressing them and their keeper has no midfielder that will at least relish it, taking it in difficult positions, it's always going to come on to us. When they tweaked the formations and Emerson came off and they went to what appeared within the context of what they could do, a traditional 4-3-3, is where it kind of changed for us, because then you have Jorginho receiving it and whatnot. And in the second half, that's actually where it all changed for us as well, because like I said, while I feel we was pressing in the first half, people, I think that quickly escaped us in the second. I think second half, you saw way too much. You saw this. And Arsenal not the team able to do that. I don't believe in the Prem you should really sit back and advocate that unless you've been doing it your whole life. But you saw something along the lines of, you saw everyone camped in our own half, people. Second half, we was completely pinned in our own half. They then obviously, more so of Callum Hudson-Odoi, but you saw the change. They went to more traditional 4-3-3. At a point, Lamperty came on. He was a traditional fullback because obviously Tomori was having a tough time. But when they went to a normal back three, you could see us kind of in trouble of sorts, people. A normal back four, sorry. We was in trouble of sorts. You had Jorginho, so Kante was staying higher up the field and doing his box-to-box thing, as was Kovacic. Mount was coming off the left-hand side and getting involved and becoming quite narrow. William was getting involved more, and so was Tammy. And from an Arsenal perspective, that's not the best of ways to do it, actually, people. We're just camped in our own half, like, for 90 minutes. I mean, for the second half, this is the only shape I could see is really this, people. Like, something along the lines of this. Like, we're just in our own half, just weathering the storm. It's not we can't defend like that, and we just couldn't get out. And that's a big reason as to why they won the free kick. Because whenever we was getting the ball, there was no way out. Like, the man in possession, we're trying to clear it. It's coming back onto us because Chelsea are just getting it. Equally, Lacazette and Aubameyang, well, Aubameyang's more so out wide, but we can't really do anything. You've got Ozil here, you've got Laka there, you've got Aubameyang there. The man in possession doesn't have much. It's just going to keep coming to them. We didn't have a focal point because of what was happening in the game. And that actually resulted in how they scored their goal, people. It was shout out to us it was a lovely, I forgot to even mention Arsenal's goal. It was like an 10-11 pass move that led to that corner, people, which Aubameyang, courtesy of Callum Chambers keeping it alive, Aubameyang took advantage. See what happens when you pass the ball forward, when you play with some tenacity. There was some positives, people, but we crept into old habits in the second half. And like I said, I think the ball fell to, I think Guendouzi, who was quite poor today watching the game again, people. It fell to Nelson. Nelson passed it to Lacazette. Laka was dispossessed, people. And then they won a free kick. Now, if I quickly remove some people, people, and I just draw some mocks. Now, I don't know how to illustrate on this Leno's mistake. Leno has to hold his hands up, people. He's got no choice but to hold his hands up. But it's also Lucas Torreira as well, you know, because Torreira loses Jorginho. If you go and watch the build-up play, people, go and watch the build-up play. Torreira's marking Jorginho. He kind of slips as the ball's being played in. And when he gets up, it's too late. Leno's already committed and done his madness. Leno's got an Jorginho, the substitute, who should have been clipped and shouldn't have been on because he should have 2 yellow cards, but it is what it is, scores. The second goal for me was jarring, people, and it was jarring for different circumstances. It's purely because game management. We deserve to. We played well enough in the first half to win. The tide is changing in the second half and we're up against it. We need to be a bit street smart. We need to be a bit more seasoned, and we're more or less caught. You've got Aubameyang, you've got Pepe, you got Joe, Willock, you had Guendouzi high up the field as well. Our fullbacks were in Saka and Maitland-Niles, very naive, are up there as well. Even Torreira's there to a degree. Mesut Ozil's come up the field, so our midfielders are all there, our defenders are here. I'm missing our centre halves are here more or less. Like, we're at complete, I don't even need to include everyone, but we're at complete 6s and 7s, people, really and truly. We're countered. We've gone up and taken an opportunity, and you've got our fullbacks caught high up the field. Guendouzi's here, Joe is there. Now, Joe's just come on, and fair enough, he's playing in the Ozil role. But I'm thinking, come on, let's keep a bit staying back. literally against the run of play, Guendouzi misses out on a header and they've countered attack. And I'm seeing Torreira dip back, Guendouzi with his arms up like he's not the one that's supposed to be there. Everyone trying to get back into recovery positions, people. But it's too late. It's simply too late. By then, plays developed. Mustafi is just backing up and backing up and backing up and backing up, people. They've countered attacked in a free. Like I said, Mustafi is just backing up and backing up and backing up from people. And crucially, again, Tammy Abraham is able to get in between two Arsenal defenders and score, people. It was a real sucker punch because it could have easily been avoided. And like I said, we've got some young players in the team who I think did well, but it's about learning from this and being ultimately less naive because we threw this game away. Watching the game again, arguably the team was unrecognisable in the second half. I think Guendouzi was poor. Lacazette played better than my rating suggested, my rating video, people, but he was underwhelming. Leno's mistake is Leno's mistake, but I feel his kicking was alright. But there are some positives and there are some long-lasting negatives that are still there. And it's about learning from this, really and truly, because a mistake made more than once is a choice. And Arteta doesn't strike me as someone that is going to keep allowing people to make mistakes if he has something to do with it. But it is what it is. We lost. It is what it is, man. We could have probably tested Kepa a bit more, but it is what it is. On that note, people, DG, I'm out. Thank you for watching and rocking as usual each and every time.